Hi, my name is Jamie Hauk, and this is my Hi, my name is Jamie Hauk, and this is my evidence-based procedures project. I decided to do a little bit of an in-between a presentation with this with my PowerPoint, so it can be more personal when the parents see this because I know they prefer to have something more personal. So I'll start off my presentation. So the ones I chose where there were different packages for each evidence-based procedure, and I chose one from each package, so it was a broad spectrum of different evidence-based procedures. I made sure I hit every package so the parents can get an idea of each one. The first one I chose was an antecedent-based intervention. Definition is a behavior change strategy that manipulates contingency-independent antecedent stimuli. There's types. There's abolishing operations, temporary effects, and non-contingent reinforcement. Antecedent-based interventions are something that happens before the behavior occurs. These are from the antecedent packet of the different evidence-based interventions. If you look in the bottom right corner, it shows the antecedent, the big A. The way it goes is there's an antecedent, which is what happens before the behavior. It causes the behavior. You have the actual behavior, and then it has consequence, what happens after the behavior that might affect the behavior later happening. And these are only antecedent ones. So I have some studies for some of these evidence-based ones just to show the parents that there are evidence around this. So there was one study that there were 3 children with inappropriate behaviors, and they developed these antecedent-based interventions to decrease inappropriate behaviors such as off-task and disruptive behavior. And all 3 of those children showed a decrease in inappropriate behavior. Next, there's in a school setting with 3 children with autism spectrum disorder using ABA design, and the intervention used ABI to increase engagement and social interaction. All 3, once again, showed improvement in engagement and social interaction with the use of ABI interventions. And I want to go back to the top right of this slide, because if you look, there's a token system, which is a great antecedent intervention. It shows on the bottom the different, if you look over here, it shows what they're expected of them. And then there's a first then board. So before the behavior happens, they know what's expected of them, so they could see that. So that's a great antecedent intervention. Another one's a schedule, anything that helps them prevent that behavior from happening. Next, I chose a discrete trial training, which I'll show you a video in a short second. And this is from the behavioral package based on the evidence-based procedures. The definition is a method of teaching in simplified and structured steps. This allows for the skill to be broken down and taught. And right now I'm going to share with you the next one. So I'll screen share that for you guys. Let me bring it up for you. So we have discrete trial training, and I'll allow that to play.
Unit 3, Discrete Trial Teaching. Section 1, the Discrete Trial, SD, and Response. In DTT, the discrete trial is used to teach new behaviors. The definition of a discrete trial is presenting a learning opportunity in which the student's correct response will be reinforced. The discrete trial consists of 3 parts which correspond to the ABCs of behavior. These parts are the discriminative stimulus, or SD, the response, or R, and the stimulus reinforcer, or SR. Here's an example of a discrete trial.
Look at me. Good looking! High five.
As you saw, the SD was the instructor saying, "Look at me." The response was the student looking at the instructor. And the stimulus reinforcers were the instructor saying, "Good looking," giving a food treat and high-fiving the student.
Okay, so that was for discrete trial training, and now we'll go back to the presentation. And I would like to talk about some research on that. So once again, there was another study done on 3 children with inappropriate behaviors. Oh, I went to the wrong one. Discrete trial training. There was a study done with 6 individuals with autism. They were taught discrete trial training by their peers with multiple baseline study. By the time the study was completed, all 6 of them were able to meet a mastery level of target academic skills. And if you look in the right corner, you could see an example of a guy performing discrete trials with the little boy. There was also another study done. A multiple probe across tutors design was used for 3 students with ASD. By the end of the study, not only did mastery level increase of targets, but increase in engagement were also documented with the individual who was teaching the discrete trials. And remember, all of these are evidence-based and have enough research to prove that they work. So these are all great ideas and interventions for your child. Next, we have functional communication. This is also from the behavioral package. There's about 6 in the behavioral package, so I wanted to include 2 just so you guys can get a better idea. This is functional communication training. And it's an antecedent intervention in which an appropriate communicative behavior is taught as a replacement behavior for problem behavior usually evoked by an establishing operation. This will work by providing the individual with the words needed to get or receive their wants and needs. When a child begins to get frustrated, you know what they want you stated. So I want, and then they would state what they want. They would mimic what you would say and then state what they wanted. Then hand them the object and praise them for their use of words. A lot of issues with autism is communication. That's a huge factor with it, and functional communication training is a great idea for it. I use it with my clients all the time, and it gives them a chance to be able to state what they want. So a lot of times their frustration comes from not being able to state their wants. So this could be used with PACs, a communication board. There's all other things that they could do. So it's a really good idea, and there's different ways to go about functional communication training, but it allows them to decrease that frustration inside them because it finally gives them a way to communicate. I also added research to this. Not all of them have research, but I wanted to make sure you guys as parents could see that there is this research. This was for children, and it did work with other kids. So you could see there's proof. 4 children with challenging behaviors like aggression, tantrums, and SIB were taught functional communication skills through the training. Since this original study was created, there have been hundreds more since that were able to successfully replicate the study and use functional communication training to decrease these behaviors. This was by Durant from 2015. The next study had 17 participants with autism spectrum disorder that had problem behaviors. The study used functional communication training as an intervention. 93.5% of them reduced their problem behaviors reduced by that much. That's by Wacker in 2012. Next, I did social stories, which was a story-based intervention. This was founded by Carol Gray, used to improve social skills of people with ASD, a story that models appropriate social interaction. So right now, I'm actually going to show you a video by her where she presents it. So you can see that and hear a little bit about social stories from her.
Social stories are an evidence-based strategy used with individuals with autism spectrum disorders. Parents and professionals develop the stories to address a wide variety of topics. There's a lot of confusion about what is and what is not a social story. Here we address the misconceptions by looking at the current definition of social stories and one of the most frequent mistakes made in developing them. The short definition of a social story states that a social story accurately describes a situation, skill, or concept according to 10 defining criteria. These criteria define the characteristics of every social story, as well as the process that is used to research, write, and implement it. The complete definition provides additional detail, stating that the criteria guide story development to ensure a patient and supportive quality, and a format, story voice, and relevant content that is descriptive, meaningful, and physically, socially, and emotionally safe for the intended audience. It is not easy to develop a social story. In my experience, most, if not all, mistakes can be traced back to failure to follow the social story definition. For example, the term development in the definition represents the many processes that parents and professionals are required to follow with each story. Consider a case example. Drew is 10 years old and is having difficulty during lunch in the school cafeteria. His teacher thinks that a social story may help. Before writing, it's important for Drew's teacher to observe in the cafeteria, talk with others who work with Drew, and maybe even talk to Drew himself, also his parents, and then most of all, consider the situation from Drew's point of view. This helps to identify an effective story topic and its focus. But sometimes the research that precedes every story reveals an alternate solution. In Drew's case, what if his teacher discovers that he is being bullied at lunch? In light of the problem, writing a story about eating lunch in the school cafeteria is irrelevant. What is needed is an intervention that will bring this bullying relationship to a close. If, on the other hand, Drew's teacher discovers that he has difficulty waiting for his turn in the cafeteria line, a social story may be helpful. Omitting the requirement of research prior to a story is failure to write a social story. Story research is a requirement that helps parents and professionals identify solutions, including a story topic with the greatest likelihood of success. In other words, to know if Drew's story is a social story by definition, we need to know how it was developed, how it is written, and how it is presented to Drew. If you would like to learn more about how to research, write, and implement a social story, the most current information is available in the new social story book, the revised and expanded 10th anniversary edition, published in 2010 by Future Horizons. There you will find a set of 10 tutorials that describe each criterion, including practice activities. It is available from the Gray Center bookstore and other distributors. I describe more about the book in another video on this website.
So that was from Carol Gray, and I found that really helpful. And I know it's always helpful to hear from the creators of these evidence-based procedures. So I thought that would be a great video for you guys as parents to see. Next, we have social stories that I have the research for this one also. And it was used, a multiple baseline design was used with 3 children to decrease disruptive behaviors. All 3 participants had a decrease in disruptive behavior, and that's by Scatone in 2002. The next study was implemented in the school and was used to decrease disruptive behaviors of children on the spectrum in a school setting. The social stories showed decrease in disruptive behaviors and improved in social interactions with peers, and that's by Wright in 2014. Next, we have video modeling, and I put some examples at the bottom, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is from the modeling package. The definition is a form of observational learning where behaviors are learned by watching video demonstration and then are imitated. There's another version of video modeling which I really approve of, and this one is video self-modeling, when the person observes themselves on video performing the appropriate behavior. So for the example over to the left, you could see the kids watching appropriate behavior in a classroom. The next one, the child, so they can learn appropriate behavior. It could be used to learn a skill, like I'll just talk about in the next two, where the child's learning to write in the middle one, and he's learning from the video modeling on the computer. And on the right is a perfect example of video self-modeling, where the it looks like either the therapist or the teacher is videoing the client doing it, and then later on he'll watch it and see him that he can do it and learn from that video. This also works with inappropriate behavior, like I said before, to learn appropriate behavior. Research in this used a study, teach imitation, and found the studies was successful to increase the imitation, which was McDowell. The next study used 3 clients in a clinical setting, and it decreased noncompliance and aggressive behavior. All the participants had a decrease, and the staff actually found it really easy to implement, and that was by Axelrod in 2014. Next, I chose to do naturalistic observations, which is from the naturalistics teaching package of the evidence-based procedures. The definition is practices that use environmental arrangement and interaction based on API to learn appropriate behaviors to increase manding. I really like this one. It really uses something that they really enjoy and puts that into place to teach a skill. So let me go back to the internet, and the next one I'll show you a perfect example of this in the environment, and I'll give you a better idea what I was talking about.
Was one in which the instructor captured a learning opportunity. Now let's discuss how you can capture learning opportunities for your student. First, it is extremely important to be aware of when your student wants something. Then you can use this moment to require a response from your student. Once your student responds correctly or with an approximation, then allow your student to have the desired item or activity. In this example, the instructor misses the chance for a learning opportunity when the student approaches the whiteboard and markers. Let's watch again as the instructor captures this learning opportunity to teach the student her colors.
What color do you want?
Green.
Green. Good job. We could color a flower with green, or we could color grass.
Then color ink.
What color do you want?
Red.
Red. Good job telling me you want red.
So I really like that example of naturalistic teaching because it allows for the child to have choices. That's what a lot of naturalistic teaching is, and it gives them that communication on being able to say what they want. So it's almost like a forced choice, and it broadens their communication. So next, I chose to do peer-mediated intervention, which is a peer training package. The definition is when a peer is trained on how to teach the person with ASD on social skills, educationally, or behaviorally. So there's many examples of this. So I provided all the examples, and these are all evidence-based examples of peer-mediated interventions. One is peer modeling, when a student models an appropriate social or classroom skill. There's peer initiation training. This is where the teacher actually trains the peer on how to evoke and maintain certain behaviors from the child with autism. So they're actually trained on autism, so they're better able to understand how to work with these children, which has shown in studies to increase communication in the child with autism. And that's continued here, as you can see, which is role reversal tutoring. When the child with disabilities, they teach someone who's below their level on whatever they're learning at the time. So it almost boosts their self-esteem, and it allows them to learn how to communicate with people. There's also class-wide peer-assisted self-management program where the students learn about self-monitoring and the ABC. So antecedent, like I was talking before, the actual behavior and then the consequence, and then they use that to work together to monitor themselves and others. The good student game is where students monitor each other. As you can see in the right corner, it's an example of peer-mediated interventions. You can see the adult is teaching the child how to work with the student with autism, and that's how it works. I really like this one and have seen it do wonders. Next is the pivotal response training, which is a pivotal response treatment package. Definition is a naturalistic intervention model that target one behavior at a time. It focuses on development, motivation, responsivity, self-management, and social interaction. And I use an example of this in the bottom right corner. So it starts with the motivation. As you can see, it goes out to initiations, then to responding multiple cues, and self-regulation. And I have a video also for this one to show you a little bit more knowledge on how it works. So let me show that one for you guys. And this is person who's trained in it, so I found this very educational.
About its motivation. We really want to motivate these kids to want to talk and want to communicate with their peers, with their parents, with their siblings. We want them to think it's fun to communicate, it's fun to use their language, and they're going to get something good out of using their language. Initial research showed that kids with autism could learn to talk, they could learn to socialize, but they thought of this as a task. It was really hard and not fun. So at the Kegel Autism Center, we've done a lot of research on motivating these kids to want to talk. And we found a lot of variables that really help these kids and teach them it's fun. We like to communicate. This isn't a bad thing. This is really, really fun. For example, one of them is child choice. So the children get to choose what they want to play with, what they want to talk about, what they want to learn about. It's really a lot more fun if the children are choosing this rather than the therapist thinking, oh, this might be fun. It's more fun if the children are choosing it themselves. Look at all the colors. What color pieces do you want? The hair. What color? This one. What color is it? Red. Okay. Another variable is task variation. This means you're going to vary the task a lot. You're not just going to drill the child on the same task. These are really hard things for these kids, so you could imagine how difficult it would be if you were drilling a child on something that's really hard for them. That's not going to be fun. So by really varying the task, you can teach these kids a lot more, and they're having more fun. It's not boring, and it's not too hard for them. Another variable is using a natural reinforcer rather than an arbitrary reinforcer. So an example of this would be to have the child say the word candy and then they get the actual candy. This means when they're in the natural environment, if they were to say something like candy, they're probably likely to get a candy. This will help the kids generalize and really maintain the language that they're learning in a session with us. And another variable is reinforcing attempts. So if these kids are working really, really hard to communicate, we want to reinforce that. We want to tell them, good job, you're doing such a great job and this is fun. And not just wait for them to make a perfect word. We really want to make sure if they're putting a lot of effort in, that they're getting something fun back. These are just a few techniques that I'm telling you about. For more information, visit the Kegel Autism Center website.
So I really enjoyed that video, and I think it's really good for you guys because it even gives you a spot to go visit at the end. As you can see, it uses previous things we talked about, like naturalistic intervention, and giving them choice and stuff. It's a little bit of a combination of the stuff that I previously talked about, and it uses it so the children get choices and it's enjoyable for them. So I do have a little bit of research on this. It's tested in school districts, and they found out that it was successful. And then this was a broad one, which is great because there were a lot of participants for this one. There are actually 269 families to train on pivotal response training. The study showed overall improvement from the pre to post test of this pivotal response training in their children, and it allowed for you as families to work with your children in a more productive way and a way that they'll enjoy. Next, we have visual supports. And this is part of the schedule package, which its example would be like a schedule, which I'll get into more in a second. So they're pictures or words that assist a child in getting through the day, such as a schedule or a list of appropriate behaviors they should be following. So on the right, it shows a perfect example of I am going to. So they know they're going to the grocery store, they know they're going to the gas station, and they have something maybe enjoyable that they want, McDonald's at the end. So this way, the child knows the exact schedule, and this is big for children on the spectrum because if they don't know what's next, it can cause a behavior. And also, if you change their schedule, they need warnings. Sometimes think about how you think you're going to McDonald's and you find out you have to eat your veggies. It can make them upset. So this is a great idea for them to see what's next. It's also reminder signs. We're keeping our hands to ourselves. we are walking in the hallways. We're going to try to keep it positive, a little different from these pictures, but this is just an example that I really enjoyed. And I know it would be helpful to you because if you're told something, they might forget. So this is a visual, so they could look down and be like, oh yeah, I need to walk in the hallways. So that's why I really like that one. Next, we have the self-management package. Self-management, which is part of the self-management package. And this is a personal application of behavior change tactics that produces a desired change of behavior. So I have an example on the right if you look, and this is a form. So the child has a list of things they're supposed to do. Let's see, the one is, when was I paying attention in class? And then they go and they're able to check it off on their own. And this is for higher functioning kids or older kids that are able to read and do this. There's also pictures. So you would have walking, a picture of a child with their hands in their lap, and they would check off next to it a smiley face or a sad face, say. So it can be done for different levels of functioning. And I put one research base. This had 3 participants. Total were able to improve effectiveness of self-management interventions. They were able to prove on-topic, responsive to conversational partner, expansion of conversational topic, and on-topic question asking. Now at the end, I have recommendations, and then when I hand this in, you will see references attached at the bottom. So all these are actually part of ABA and are used in ABA interventions, but with video modeling and stuff, and PECs and communication, there are others. So I started off with my ABA recommendations, which I'll get into, and then I have my recommendations for communication. So let's start off with the ABA-based interventions. First Children is a great center. It's located in South Jersey, right in Cherry Hill. Here's a number and an address. They provide home-based programs clinically, and they also, in the building, they have social skill training. They have a great program for Minecraft, where the kids come in and they learn social skills through Minecraft. They have discrete trial training, and they actually use all the above evidence-based interventions through their programming. So this is a really great opportunity for their child to use all these things that I just talked about. Next, we have Bancroft, which is also great. They provide evidence-based practices with the ones that were shown above. They use visual sports, pivotal response training, video modeling. They have home-based and school-based. They have based in the district, and also they have their own privatized schools, and they have home-based instruction and ABA therapy. So it's really great, and they include all evidence-based. Next, we have Autism Spectrum Mandate Services, which provides all the listed above intervention, and is an ABA-based program. This is in-home and can be done privately or through insurance, which is great because ABA can be expensive, and when it's through insurance, it makes it more affordable. Next, we have Devereaux Consultants. It provides in-home services and interventions and social skill based on interventions listed above. Lastly, we have Bloom Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is located in Mulkill. These are all South Jersey places. These are in-home services that provide all evidence-based procedures above. Lastly, I wanted to include some recommendations for communication. Fox Kids provides social skill group and communication evaluations with functional communication training and other communication evidence-based procedures. It provides and then lastly, we have Speak to Me Kids. Provides communication ways based on evidence-based procedures to help apraxia, social skills, and nonverbal children with autism spectrum disorder. So all these places above are great places to get in contact with. You go through insurance with them to get your child services. So I hope this was helpful for you as parents. So it gave you a little bit of education on things that will be working with their child, and you could learn to work with your child. And these are all great companies to go to be able to help your child in the community and in the home and in the school. I really hope this was helpful and you enjoyed it. Thanks so much.